The purpose of this video is to introduce you to the ICD-9 code set, and I'd like to start by showing you the CMS 1500 claim form that you see here. Let's tell a little story, shall we? There's a little boy named Johnny, and poor Johnny, he fell out of the tree and broke his leg. And so he goes to the doctor, and let's say the doctor does an exam and takes some x-rays and puts a cast on Johnny, and then he sends him home with some crutches. Johnny leaves, and he's out of the picture now, but after he leaves we have this form. And this is the form that the government created so that you would be able to bill them for services done at a doctor's office. And you'll get into this form later in the program, but basically this top portion is a place for us to put the patient's name, and in this case little Johnny's mom and her insurance information. But what we're interested in when we talk about coding is the bottom part of this form. This part is for the doctor, or better yet the coder, to fill out to indicate what happened to Johnny. And there are really only two boxes here that we're going to focus on. Today I want to talk to you about ICD-9. This is box 21, and if you could see this, it says the diagnosis or nature of the illness or injury. There's 4 lines in this box, and each one is there for us to put in a description of what's wrong with Johnny. And this ICD-9 is the code set we use to put in the description. Instead of saying Johnny broke his leg, we have a code that we can put here. And the question is, where does that code come from? How do we know what code to use? And so that's where this book comes in. This is a copy of the ICD-9 CM. It was actually developed by the World Health Organization, and it stands for International Classification of Disease. It's been revised 9 times. This 9th edition came out in the late 70s. Basically, the World Health Organization wanted to keep track of everything that people got sick of or died from, and so they created this list, and they assigned codes to every disease they could think of, and we have modified those with the help of the government. This means clinical modification. So now we use them in a clinical setting, in a doctor's office. This particular edition that I have here is for physicians. It's volumes 1 and 2. And ICD-9 actually has 3 volumes, but the 3rd one is for hospital and inpatient coding, which we don't cover in this program. I'd like to take a moment to show you what's going on in this book and how it's organized, just so that you can get started with it. So if we flip it open, you see that I've added tabs here. This first section are the coding guidelines. And this is where all the rules are made up about which codes go first, and when you change codes, and how to determine which codes are more important than others. They're all listed in here in these guidelines. And so they're important to note, and you'll see that I've started to highlight some things in here, and it's recommended that at some point in your education you go ahead and read all these. As you go through the step-by-step book, it will introduce you to these ideas though. Most of the front half of this book is the index to diseases. And it starts right here with the letter A, and it goes on and on. If I look at the edge of the book, it's all gray. Eventually, the edge of the book from this publisher is in rainbow colors. So basically, everything before the rainbow is an index. And in this book, it's known as Volume 2. If you notice on the cover, it says I have Volumes 1 and 2. Well, Volume 2 is first, and it's the index. And basically, if we want to look up a disease, let's say we want to look up the fracture that little Johnny suffered from. We turn the pages here till we find fracture, and we go with, this is fracture. It may be hard for you to see, but it says fracture, and then we look for femur, since that's the bone that he broke, and I'm actually a page too far. And fracture, femur, closed, and it says here that it's 821.00. That's the code I would put on this form to tell the insurance company what was wrong with Johnny. But we're not done yet. We don't know for sure that that's the right code. So we're going to look back in this colored section. This colored section has 17 different chapters, separated mostly by body system. The one we're interested in is where that 72100 is. It happens to be the musculoskeletal section. So as we flip through these codes, yep, I have the wrong one. Regardless, we could look up the code in here and we would see a description of it, and we get an explanation of what that code is about and what the details are. And once we've confirmed it here in Volume 1, this second half of the book is called Volume 1, then we know we've picked the right code, and then we can go ahead and type it in right here on the computer, or in the old days on a typewriter. And once it's there, the insurance company receives that, and later I'll talk to you about what goes down here, but this is where we would put the codes for Johnny's x-ray and exam and the crutches that we sold to him. So what we really need to do here is establish medical necessity and say what was wrong with him. And that is your introduction to ICD-9.